So, I mean,
I say we do Pretty Woman. Look,
or,
I just think that somebody needs to sit down and let women know that, you know what, if you're a prostitute, ain't no rich man gonna be all, oh baby, we can love each other, we can live happily ever after. He's gonna go, I like this and this about you, but I think I'm gonna go find me a model that's in mint condition.
so he's Tony. I'm Mike. We're here to watch the world burn. In this episode, we're reviewing 1979's Phantasm. I would call this a horror film with some all sorts of craziness thrown in.
I'm going to call it a horror thing because it's not quite a film, but it's on film. So yeah.
So,
Okay.
so this thing or film, however you want to do it, was directed, written, shot, and edited by Don Casarelli. And he also did some other fine films. The Beastmaster. The other films in the Phantasm series, 2, 3, 4, I believe there's a fifth one as well. John dies at the end, and because I love this film, Bubba Hotep.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well, I might have to rethink some of my opinions on Phantasm, knowing all that. There's a couple of movies in there that I genuinely really enjoy. So
And last, and certainly not least, he filmed the Dio video for The Last in Line.
well,
Dio, baby.
uh,
So, I mean, say what you want about this film. The man had not a great career, but an interesting career nonetheless.
I will say he most definitely had ups and downs, but all in all, it's a net positive on film in general. So
The movie stars Michael Baldwin as Mike, Bill Thornbury as Jody, who's Mike's older brother, Reggie Bannister as Reggie, who is the buddy to Jody and Mike, and Angus Scrim as the tall man.
oh, and don't forget the Lavender Lady, who is actually the tall man in drag, but
Yeah,
you
I
know.
I didn't bother to look up her name. She has she she suffers from Eurotrip syndrome. She has less than 2 lines, so she has to sew her tits.
well, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I will say apparently she's like a fan favorite at conventions. I was actually like poking around and looking at stuff, and she's still gorgeous. She is played by Kathy Lester, is her name, and oh, let's see, 19. I want to know how old she is, because I'm curious. All it has is her height. It just says that she's 5'6.25 inches. She really is all about hiding her age. I guess so. I mean, when you're bathing in the blood of virgins, you don't want people to know your secret.
So the movie, there's no real hard number on the budget, but it seems to be 300,000, which is the same as Halloween, right?
Yeah. Sure. I'll go with 300,000. It looks every bit of 300,000. And what was the box office
I would
on?
say it looked a little more than that, because there's a lot more going on here than Halloween. I mean, there's a lot more effects, shots. I mean, there's car crashes, explosions. Um, I mean, there's a lot going on here. He accomplished a shit ton with
Oh
$300,000.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, the thing that I had read was that he basically used his family for everything. Like his mom was doing makeup effects,
Yeah.
and he had family members that were, doing the score and all the other, behind the scenes production stuff. But then he was being invested by doctors and lawyers.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's who actually bankrolled this. And I don't know, I guess they just threw money at him, and he was like, I've got a great idea for a movie. So it worked out okay because
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, it was like I want to say the box office was like $11.5 million for this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
That's insane.
yeah.
Nobody was complaining about the check they got back from Phantasm.
No,
So
absolutely not. Oh, let's see here. So, I mean, I guess at this point we can kind of tear into the plot.
it starts off perfectly. It starts off, and Tony, what was his name?
Tommy.
Tommy has scored big. He is punching so far over his weight class. I mean, he knows like he has he has that one brief moment in his life where he has surpassed even his wildest expectations, and he is going full bore. So when a hot blonde says, "Hey, let's have awkward sex on a tombstone," that's exactly what he agrees to, and he is all in. And then, his brief shining moment is cut short by a quick stab to the ribs. And then you find out that the lady in lavender was a trap, because it turns out that it's actually the tall man. And it's amazing what a little eyeliner and a wig will do for some people. I mean,
And the right lighting.
yes, yeah. I mean, this is why you should always be wary when the bar is too dim and the alcohol blood content is too high.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really, that first 5 minutes is a metaphor for a hard night of drinking out at the bar. He went to bed with a 9 and woke up with Angus Scrim. So,
That's
you know,
not where you want to be.
I'm just saying, like, it's quite possible that he stabbed himself. But to get the plot moving, they're all like, no, it had to be that dude that did it. No, it didn't. Because trust me, he would have gnawed his arm off if he had woken up and she had fallen asleep on his arm. So we start off and we're already in a weird place. And I think like it's the perfect opening to this film because it sets the vibe that a lot of weird shit is going to happen and don't expect to understand any of it. and and that's exactly where you need to be on this film.
Yeah.
So
So,
so they go through like the funeral and like it's all very like weird.
mhm.
And for some reason Mike is watching the funeral with binoculars. Jody didn't want him to come because he, apparently was still having nightmares about his mom and dad's funeral, and
Yeah.
Jody thought that would be like too intense for him to deal with. So what does he do? He follows his brother and watches the funeral with binoculars. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
sure, okay, how'd that work out for you? This is
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
at 13.
Well, there he's being watched by Jawas.
Yes, oh yeah. This is the part that like it got really weird for me because I remember like they carry the casket out and
Mhm.
they go to the gravesite and they put the casket there, and I don't know, I guess they didn't bother to bury it because then you see the tall man and he's picking up the casket and loading it back into the hearse.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's him stealing. Everybody's cleared out, so he's going to go ahead and steal the body now. I guess that's what I'm supposed to take away from it. But it's like
Yeah.
it's so awkward and weird. It's kind of like, hey guys, you forgot to throw some dirt on there. Oh wait, wrong corpse. Let me take this one back inside. I'll get the right one.
Well, see, that's the thing. I have never been to a funeral yet where I've actually seen him drop down on the ground ever, and
I
I've been to several.
I think that's one of those things that only exists in movies. It's like finding keys in the visor of a car. Who do you know that puts their car keys up there? But like in a movie, if somebody gets into a car that's not theirs, it's perfectly acceptable for them to pull the visor down and have a set of keys fall down, and they can start the car and drive away.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know which movie started that trope.
I would love to to like find out who's responsible for that. Does Mike go to the fortune teller that's never really referenced until the end of the film
Yeah,
before Jody goes
so
to the
he goes to the fortune teller, um, and I think they mentioned what the girl's name is, but it doesn't matter. And then he goes there to see the grandma, but he goes through the whole Dune scene. Go ahead and take you describe it because I can't pronounce what was called.
well, yeah, it is. It is. They have the Gom Jabbar.
That's it.
It's seen in Dune, and basically, Benny Gesserit, um, Mother Helen Mohayim, comes to see Paul Atreides and test him with the Gom Jabbar, and she wants to see if he's capable of controlling his impulses.
He
And
wants to. No, the line is, "I want to see if you're human."
yeah, well,
Yes.
that's control his impulses.
Yes.
You know, an animal will pull his hand back at the sensation of pain, whereas a human will be able to control himself and endure the pain, and that's kind of the whole test of it. Um, and you asked about the floating orb thing. That's a Dune reference as well. In Dune, they have these assassination
Oh, that's right.
robots
I
that are called
forgot.
killers.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they use a repulsor field, so they're slippery and they're hard to grab onto. And that's pretty much exactly what the ball is, except for the hunter seeker. It injects you with a neurotoxin and you die, whereas this one is equipped with a Black and Decker drill bit, and it just routes your brain right out of your head.
And don't
So
forget to Ginsu knives.
yeah, yeah. Well, I just look. Ron Popeil and Frank Herbert got together, and this is what they came up with.
That
Um,
is
just
badass.
just
Anyway.
set it and forget it.
You just set it and then forget it.
You just set it and forget it. Set it and forget about it.
You set it and forget it.
and so like it's like literally it's they lift the scene with the fortune teller. It is like almost verbatim. It is line for line, and this is obviously lifted straight from the book.
She tells him to stick his hand in the box. He sticks his hand in the box, and
He asks what's in the box, and she responds, "Pain." That's important. She's
yeah,
letting him know beforehand. She's psyching him out.
yeah.
And then he sticks his hand in the box, and he's fighting through the pain. And can I just say that the kid that plays Mike, who I believe his name is Mike, um, he's not much of an actor. He tries really hard, but yeah. Then we get the weird like out of nowhere scene where Reggie, the ice cream man, pulls up to Jody and Mike's house. And I don't know, for some reason, they decided to like do an impromptu sing along for several
Well, see, here's my theory on this. When they see Tommy in the casket at the beginning, there's like, well, there goes the trio. So I'm assuming they were in a band together.
So they have the impromptu jam out session on Mike and Jody's front porch. And let's be honest, Reggie looks like the registered town sex offender. he's he's got the white ice cream man suit, he's got the creepy ice cream man van, and then he's got the super sketchy skullet ponytail thing going on. Um yeah. He's supposed
Well,
to
have you
like
seen most Ice Cream Men?
do what?
Have you seen an Ice Cream Man?
Well, I
Well,
seen
what does your
Scatman,
typical Ice Cream Man look like back in the day?
dirty hippie.
So at least Reggie was cleaned up. You know, he had the good humor suit on and stuff like that. He had his hair back in a ponytail. At least he was dressed presentable.
Yeah, but he should have had like bags of weed in his ice cream truck. Jody goes to a bar, and he's there long enough to order a beer. The lady in lavender apparently, I don't know, he's got his radar like pinged out, so like he's immediately getting picked up by the lady in lavender looking smoking hot, which the audience knows it's Angus Scrim, it's the tall man, but Jody don't know, and she's got great legs. So you know what? Let's just go with it. So he's like, I live not too far from here, and she's like, I can't wait. And so they go, and they're gonna have sex in the graveyard. And naturally, Mike, because he's kind of a creepy little freak, is following his brother and watching him pick up chicks at the bar. And he's gonna have some really high expectations. Like he's gonna hit 19 or 20, and he's gonna like go and he'll be ordering his sixth or seventh round of drinks and be like, why has no chick just walked up and tried to hook up with me? So his expectations of bar life are going to be shattered. He's going to be devastated into his adult years, but it's okay. So Jody and the lady in lavender, they're getting ready to get their freak on. We get to see what color underwear Jody wears, and they're white and they're mighty. and and just as they're about to consummate the act, that's when Mike sees a Jawa in the woods and he goes running past them, and Jody gets cock blocked by his 13-year-old brother, and he's like, let me go find out what's going on with him. I'm sorry.
Jody's like the most forgiving brother ever. Never wants to like yell at Mike, give him shit. So I can see why Mike idolizes Jody. I mean,
yeah,
fucking Mike cock blocks his older brother, and just like, sorry, buddy. Here's the keys to Cuda. Scoot along. Got some business to finish over here.
Jody is a very trusting brother because I realize it's 1979, so like I don't know if the Cuda was considered a classic or like a future classic at that, or if it was just an old sports car. I don't know what the mindset was on a 71 Cuda in 1979.
It probably wasn't that big of a deal.
But he's letting his 13-year-old brother work on the car that he's got to drive. That's trust, unlike anything I've ever seen. That's the most unrealistic part of this movie for me. I wouldn't trust a 13-year-old to do shit except for wash the car, let alone like get underneath it and work on it. But so anyway, so Mike is underneath the car, he's working on it, and then he hears noises and something's on top of the car, and the car is moving and he's underneath it. And he didn't bother to get like, one of the wheelie carts that you would just roll underneath the car and roll yourself back out. He's kind of stuck underneath it. So when the car falls off of its jacks and pins him to the ground, you're thinking, oh, it's about to get real. And then a foot shows up and he smashes it with a hammer. and turns out that it was Jody's foot. And again, Jody is the most forgiving older brother on the planet. So, I'm just, if somebody smashed my foot with a hammer, even if I liked them, I'd still slap them. But Jody doesn't do that. Jody's a good guy who also happens to look an awful lot like, Michael Knight from Knight Rider years later, who also drove a black, cool sports car. But we're not going to go there yet.
So I screwed up earlier. I skipped ahead on my notes. After that scene is when Mike goes back to the mausoleum and runs into the silver ball and the caretaker.
Set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it.
So I'll edit that up to this point.
Yeah, to this point, yes.
So.
So,
or you just want to talk about it again here? We don't need to talk about it again.
I'm keep talking about it again. So,
okay.
So why does he decide? So what makes him decide to go back to the mausoleum in the first place? He sits down and they play that song, and then they have like a brief conversation, and then I think Mike says something like, well, I saw something weird. I saw that guy and he carried the casket by himself and he took it back to the funeral home. And I think that's when Jody decides that he's going to go back and see what's going on. And that's when he runs into, the tall man and his contractor and the giant ball.
You just set it and forget it.
You just set it and you forget about it.
It's not giant. It's not like that big.
Well, I know, but I'm just. Hey, tell them about this part. So I'm sorry, I've got the giggles, and so I need you to go through this part because otherwise I'm just gonna sit here and laugh for 5 minutes.
All right. So Mike's snooping through the mausoleum. He gets caught snooping by one of the caretakers. And so the caretaker's trying to choke him out. And so around the corner comes the silver ball sentinel of death. It comes hurtling towards him. The two blades pop out, hits the guy right in the forehead. Out pops the Black and Decker drill. Boom, blood.
Yeah, and he's filled with raspberry preserves.
Yeah.
A lot of them too.
I think strawberry.
This is no, that looks like raspberry to me. It's chunkier than strawberry.
Oh, no, strawberry. No. Could have been cherry.
Possibly.
I'm leaning towards strawberry.
Fair enough. Anyway, regardless of the flavor.
So after the guy gets killed and promptly pisses himself after death, my timer goes off and I have to pull the brownies out again. This will be the last time.
You just set it and forget it.
You just set it and you forget about it.
So after the caretaker dies and pisses himself, Mike takes off and runs into the tall man. He somehow manages to get away, and as he's running away, he runs into this room and slams the door behind him. When he slams the door behind him, the tall man has his fingers caught in the door jamb. Lucky for Mike, he carries this fucking Rambo fucking knife, pulls that bitch off, chops his fingers off, and when he chops them off, it's got like this yellowy, orangey goo, whatever.
Goo is a good word. Goo is a good word.
It's properly creepy and disgusting and nasty looking. Like I wouldn't want to touch it. But Mike does. Mike picks up one of the fingers and takes off with him.
Well, the fingers are still moving too.
Yes.
That's kind of one of those. That's not right, but sure. Let's throw that in. I guess he wants evidence that he was there, that he did cut this guy's fingers off, that they are still moving.
Yeah. It's like when you get dared to stare at the spooky house, you gotta go into the spooky house to steal something and take it back out to prove you're there.
Okay, that's reasonable assumption. I can go along with that theory on that. But so he takes it home.
He takes it home and he shows it to Jody. He's like, see? Funky shit's going on out there. And Jody's like, yep, that's properly fucked up.
Yeah, and the finger's still moving in the box, too.
The finger's still moving in the box. So with the tall man's shit in the box, Mike's up in his room and he hears like a buzzing come out of the fucking box. Like, what the fuck is going on? Opens the box up and it's this like giant fucking housefly looking fucking thing. Funny thing about this is the very first scene I saw of this movie, because the first time I saw this movie, I was flipping channels over at Grandma Greco's house, because she was one of the first people I knew to have cable, and so that's how I was introduced to this movie. And this is the first time I've seen this movie, and this was the scene right here, right at that spot where he hears the buzzing in the box, and I'm probably like 7, 8 years old at the time when I'm watching this. And so, yeah, this scene freaked me the fuck out. Here's the buzz in the box. The thing flies out of the fucking box. It's attacking him. Mike wraps it up in his jacket. But he's like fighting this thing, going down the steps. And Jody comes, and they're both fighting this thing, going down the fucking steps. Finally, they get in the kitchen, and they shove the damn thing down the fucking disposal.
Yeah.
And then Reggie pops in, and is like, "Oh, hey, what you guys doing?
What's going on?"
Yeah. and then, fucking, the thing comes back. It's not fucking dead. So then it attacks him again. And then finally they get it this time and kill it. And then Reggie's like, what the fuck is going on here, guys?
It's perfectly acceptable. Reggie has the exact correct response
to
what he's seen. Because horseflies are already freakishly big, but when you see one that's the size of your fist, it's time to ask some questions. Like, when was the last time you guys took the trash out?
So now everybody's convinced some crazy shit's fucking going on down there. Reggie had the master plan of, well, I know what we need to do. We need to go out there and shoot this motherfucker up. that's Reggie's plan. So,
and again, perfectly reasonable. Reggie has his head screwed on straight.
yeah.
He needs a better barber, but you know the ideas in that under that skullet, they're top notch. He's a thinking man's hero.
Yeah. So really up to this point, the plot seems to be moving okay, but things will start to get rocky here soon because it kind of jumps around a bit. Well,
I'm gonna say
it's a little strange, but so Jody goes to the cemetery by himself,
yeah,
for whatever reason, and then he's attacked by one of the dwarves like right off the bat in the basement. God, there's so much shit that goes on in this fucking movie.
There is, and it's like at this point, like seriously, rather than like beat it to death and try to unravel it,
Yeah.
like literally at this point, it just becomes kind of a jumble of shit that happens because Jody is constantly trying to take Mike someplace safe. He's trying to be the responsible older brother. He takes him like to the antique store, and then like Mike is there for like all of 3 minutes, and he sees like the little picture, and it's the tall man, and apparently it's animated.
Yeah.
And he immediately is like, "Take me home!" And the ladies that are watching him are supposed to be the adults. They're like, "Well, I guess we got to take him home." And so, you know, then we have like the attack of the Jawas in the VW Beetle, and
well, they see Reggie's ice cream truck turned over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why they stop.
Yeah.
And they get out to investigate, and that's when they get attacked in the Beetle.
They get attacked in the Beetle,
and somehow Mike miraculously gets thrown out the back of the Beetle by one of the Jawas.
Safety glass was not an issue. Neither were seat belts. So yeah, so he gets smashed into the glass, and then like as the car's driving off, he just like falls out of the back of the window.
Yeah.
And do they ever actually say what happens to the two blonde ladies that ran the antique shop?
I don't believe so. I believe they get written off too.
So if you're young, attractive, and blonde in
no,
this,
no, wait, no, they do. Later, because it's at some point, oh God, because yeah, this thing's such a fucking mess. Because at some point there, Reggie has one of the Jawas in the back of the ice cream truck, and he gets attacked, and that's why the ice cream truck flips over. and the funny thing about that too is like when it's thrown that's it. They find Tom. Oh, okay. All right. God damn, it's such a fucking pain in the dick. So, Mike and Jody are driving somewhere in the Cuda. A hearse pulls up, and it doesn't look like it's being driven by anybody. So Jody comes out of the sunroof of the car, shoots the fuck out of it. The hearse crashes, and somehow they get hold of Reggie, and Reggie pulls up in the ice cream truck, and they throw one of the Jawas in the back, and then Reggie's like, "I'm not getting goo on my ice cream, will I?" Legit question. And like you said, Reggie's the only guy who has his head on straight. You know, it's like, fuck, dude, you gonna fuck up my ice cream, man. It's my living.
Reggie has responsibilities.
That's right.
Yeah, so you know what? Don't fuck up his inventory. He's got to get paid.
Yeah.
Reggie is the man.
And you know what? It makes you wonder if that's how they came up with the push-ups. You know, because there's all that orange goo in there. Reggie has some toilet paper rolls and a fucking popsicle stick. That bitch up. I got the push pop.
Push pops.
They're made from the sweet dead remains of your relatives.
Tasty orange flavored remains of bloody Jawas. So anyway, just to cut through all the bullshit that goes on, they all three of them wind up back at the mortuary, and they discover that there is a white room that is a portal to another world. And what has been going on? Oh, spoilers. What has been going on is that the tall man has been taking corpses and sending them through to this alternate dimension where he makes the corpses into dwarves, and those dwarves are slave labor. And apparently they're really loyal slave labor because, like, even though the dwarves have come back to Earth and they have an opportunity to just like fuck off and go join the circus and whatnot, they stay in the employ of the tall man. Jody and Mike find out like their mom and dad are actually two of the dwarves. Like basically most of the vaults in the mausoleum have been emptied out.
Yeah.
And so all those bodies are now cheap labor somewhere across the galaxy somewhere. And so they go about hunting down and stopping the tall man.
Yeah.
Take it, Mike.
So while they're there in the mausoleum, Reggie is fucking around with the two little posts, which are the doorway for the portal.
Yeah.
He puts his hand on them. When he does that, he activates the Mega Maid function of it, and it starts sucking everything fucking into it. So while that's going on, Reggie bails out. Mike and Jody are already outside. Reggie gets caught by the tall man and gets stabbed, as the lady in lavender again. So if you see a blonde in the cemetery wearing lavender, purple, whatever,
Yeah.
get the fuck out. Run as fast as you fucking can.
Or if you're done living and you just want to bust one last nut, hang out. So,
Well, no, because you're just gonna be forced into slave labor.
well, yeah, but
No pussy's worth it. No,
I'm,
no,
they're really nice.
no pussy's worth it. So,
So,
anyways, so that's when Mike gets the brilliant idea. We're gonna lure him down to the mine shaft, which he doesn't actually lure anybody to the mine shaft. Mike is stuck at home again for like the 50th time, and he gets the tall man comes to the house. Mike escapes out of the house, is running to the graveyard, to the mausoleum. For some reason, the mausoleum is like a fucking Mike magnet. He keeps going back there. So, anyways, so Mike is running through. He gets to the mine shaft. Somehow he magically knows where the trap is. He hops over the trap. Tall man falls into the trap, walks right into it, falls down there. Mike pushes the not Mike. Jody pushes the rocks down.
Jody pushes boulders down the hill. And he's got impeccable aim because they all manage to go right into the hole where the tall man is hanging on for dear life. And it's very weird and odd, but like they all, like everyone, none of them go past. They all go right into it. They knock the tall man into the hole.
You just set it and forget it.
You just set it and you forget about it.
I've got that whole bit, like I got a lot of questions about that one, but then
we're almost there. We're almost at the end of the.
We're almost at the end. We're almost at the end. So Mike's all like, "Yay!" and Jody's on top of the hill, and he goes, "Yay!" back, and then we immediately cut to Mike and Reggie sitting in a living room with the fire, and they're talking about how Jody's no longer with them, and like he's died. They're having the conversation, and Reggie says, "Hey, you know what? Let's grab your stuff. Let's hit the road. Let's get out of town for a little bit." Blah blah blah. So Mike goes upstairs and he's getting some clothing and stuff together, and he closes the door, and it's got a mirror back. And when the door closes, the tall man is standing there, and then you have that shot where Mike is somehow right in front of the mirror, and the tall man reaches through and breaks out the glass and grabs Mike and pulls him in through the hole, and then it immediately snaps to black, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Or is it? That's the beginning of the questions. At this point in 1979 in the theaters, you are so stoned you don't know what your name is anymore, or you are sitting in the theater scratching your head going, what the fuck did I just watch? There's no middle ground on this one.
It's a very what the fuck I just watched movie. But I'll be goddamn, it's not a. It's a fun. What the fuck just happened movie?
It is a fun romp. It is amazingly watchable.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about that. It is fun. Shit that happens is so weird and so like bizarre that you're gonna wait to see what happens next, no matter what. I'm not telling you that it's gonna make any sense, because it ain't. But you're gonna be like, well, what's going on? It's intriguing. That's the best word I can come up with for this film. It is very intriguing, and there's a lot of borrowed elements. You can tell, like, the dwarves are most definitely, like, he lifted that straight from Star Wars. We already talked about he lifted some stuff from Dune. So he's most definitely a sci-fi fan. There's no two ways about that. And my sense of it is that he wanted to make a sci-fi flick, but that's expensive. So instead of doing a sci-fi flick, you can do a horror film on the cheap and still do a really convincing, still make a convincing movie. But then he wanted to incorporate those sci-fi elements, because if you look at, like, the grand overarching plot, that the tall man is actually, I'm guessing, like an alien of some sort who came to Earth, and he's been here, or he's visited in the past, or he's been here for a long time. I don't know which, and they don't really say. But he comes there, and he's harvesting dead human bodies, and he's sending them through the portal, and he's turning them into slave labor on an alien planet. That's kind of a, like, far out there sort of sci-fi plot. It's interesting in and of itself, just to say it in two sentences. But to tack on all the trappings of a horror film on top of that, and to have him able to turn into a hot leggy blonde or a giant fly, or like, so they just kept heaping the weird onto this one. No two ways about it. And there is good stuff in here. There's a lot of good stuff. Again, it's not a good movie, but it is an amazingly watchable movie.
It works.
It does.
The concept works. It needed a lot of tweaking, but somehow all that managed to work.
Well, again, it's like, this is a mystery film. I mean, like, legitimately, we talked about The Endless, and how that's a mystery film, and how, like, you're presented with all this, like, crazy weird shit, and does the explanation satisfy? Is really what it all boils down to. And in this one, weirdly, even though this is, like, completely bizarre, the explanation does satisfy. It is a intriguing premise. So, not to go too deep into that, but I realize that, we can sit here and like really look at this movie and see what he borrowed from to make this film. But what's more interesting, like you brought up, is like what this film influenced after it had come out, because there are a lot of films and a lot of stories, novels, that borrowed, not heavily, but were definitely influenced by this film. This film had a certain vibe and a certain concept and a certain weirdness to it, and it rang through all the crap, through the bad performances and the bad editing and the bad story structure. Something's here. There is a very, very shiny, bright nugget of gold in this film, and you could definitely see that the quality of this film, I think, is the reason why, because people could see that this is not a good film.
Yeah.
But what they also are free to do is go, you know what? I like that idea. I want to expand on that. I want to take that idea and do something interesting with it. And that's most definitely what happened.
Yeah.
You can definitely see where a lot of other people borrowed one or two concepts from this film and then really fleshed them out and did them in interesting and creative ways. So, the impact of this film and the timing of this film were just dead on the money.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what an audience would want. And like I said, while it may not be the most critically acclaimed film, you cannot deny this film's influence on the horror films that came after it. There's no
Absolutely.
ifs or buts.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Did you like read any interviews with this guy or anything like that? I mean, what do we know about this guy beyond this film?
Just some things. He was inspired by something wicked this way comes, and some of what's his name? Dario Argento. He's
Oh, okay. So he's a fan of Italian cinema.
yes,
Argento.
yes, absolutely. Which you could totally see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So then the other thing too, it, talk about the craft in it. The sound design is magnificent.
Oh, definitely.
The
Definitely.
sound of the dwarves is fucking creepy and scary. The sound of that thing when turned to the fly
Yeah.
was fucking perfect and scary. Uh, that weird industrial hum that came when they're in the white room with the doorway is just weird and creepy, and it just works so well. The sound of the silver ball sentinel of death is fucking cool. Yeah. One last thing I want to touch on before we wrap this up is the soundtrack, the music. I love the music in this film. It's really good. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's obviously influenced by Carpenter, but still it's still original sounding, and it works really really well. I mean, it's a very creepy theme.
It's perfect for setting the mood of the scenes, and it is perfect for setting the tone of the film. You're absolutely right. And it is very John Carpenter-esque. And again, I was listening to this and watching this, and Karen said something like, why does this sound like I've heard it before? And I said, because Prince of Darkness soundtrack sounds a lot like this. So again, if you want to see the influence, I don't know who influenced who. I think that he may have like borrowed from John Carpenter, and then John Carpenter borrowed back. Because that's if you can listen to the Phantasm soundtrack and the Prince of Darkness soundtrack back to back, you're gonna find that from an audiophile standpoint, they sound a lot alike. So
Yeah. And to be completely fair, he says he was influenced by Goblin and Mike Oldfield, which I haven't had a chance to listen to any of their music. I'm assuming Goblin is a band, and maybe Mike Oldfield is a member of that band. I'll have to do research and see, but yeah, music's great. So
it's it works in all the areas that it needs to work. That's the best explanation I can give you for Phantasm. Is it a good film? No. Will you ever forget it once you see it? No. Is it worth talking about? Absolutely. There's so much good here. Um, it's weird. It's an incredibly watchable film in spite of itself.
yes, that's the best way to say. That's the best way to say
explain
that.
it.
Yes.
So
So I'm assuming you're recommending this.
I would absolutely recommend this. I'm not saying that if you are a student of cinema, if you love dissecting film, oh my god, definitely watch this if you haven't already. And if you just like horror films, definitely watch this one. Don't think about it. That's what I can tell you. Just watch it. Just go along for the ride. Don't think about it. Somebody pulls up in a big, sweet 1971 Cuda and says, "Hey, let's go for a drive." You get in and you shut the fuck up and you just enjoy the ride. You don't worry about when was the oil change last. You don't worry about are the tires new. You don't worry about any of that shit. You worry about what is on the radio and just soaking that shit up. And that is what Phantasm is. It is a ride in a super sweet Hemi Cuda that you don't own.
So I obviously recommend Phantasm. I love this film. This film stuck with me ever since I saw that first clip when I was 8. And yeah, I mean, again, how somebody manages to cram all these random concepts, seemingly random concepts together and make it work is absolutely amazing. Let's see. I highly recommend watching Bubba Otep, which is another one of his films.
Yeah.
Oh God, what's his name?
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell. There's Bruce Campbell in it. He plays Elvis in a nursing home with dick cancer or some shit like that.
He's got sores on his penis. That's what I know, and he's got to have the pus, squeezed out of him. It's magnificent. That's what I can tell you. If anybody else had, you can't explain Bubba Hotep. You just gotta watch it.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way, this guy went from making Phantasm, which is kind of like weird and hard to explain, and then I don't know. He learned how to make a proper narrative structure as he went, and as he goes on through his career, his films get better and better and better because Bubba Hotep, from the word go, it was designed to be a cult film from the ground up.
Yes.
And it is not just a cult film, it's a great cult film. And I love that movie and everything about it. And I guess I never did any digging into the director of that one, but finding out that, Phantasm was where he got his, where he cut his teeth, it makes perfect sense now. Yeah. Who else would think to have Elvis Presley and JFK in a retirement home and they're being, stalked by a mummy that's taking the souls of the near dead? Sure, let's go with that. So
yes, he is the master of throwing concepts in a blender and fucking coming out with fucking Jamba Juice. I mean, whatever.
He's got really good weed. That's
right on. Tony, what are we watching next?
Well, I have talked about this film a couple times on some past episodes, and we are finally actually going to talk about it. We are going to be doing Positive ID, which is an indie film that no one's heard of, but I love it, and I recently got a copy of it, and I want to talk about it and share it with Mike and share it with you guys.
Cool.
So,
well, then we'll see you guys next time.
Peace! Here's the question for you. Julia Roberts is a prostitute in that film.
Yes.
So why is Jason Alexander cut out to be the creepy guy when he finds out that she's a prostitute and he's all like, when you're done working for this guy, maybe you and I can spend some time together. Why is he the bad guy in that movie? She's a whore. And he's literally saying, hey, look, I know that you're working for my boss, but when you're done working for my boss, I'm available. And hey, I have a nice car and make bank too. We can hook up. He's just like, and then suddenly she's indignant about it. It's like, what the fuck? You're a whore. Like, legitimately.